You've made it back right here. Come on in now. The wind's whispering tonight. There's a damn chill in the air. Pull that blanket tight around you. That's it. The fire's crackling low, and my tea's steeping slow. But I've saved the best part of the evening just for you. You see, tonight, I'll tell you a tale that hasn't been spoken in many years. A tale of lanterns that glow with memories, of a quiet village that vanishes in the mist, and of one gentle soul named Alden, the last lantern keeper of Elder Glen. They say Elder Glen was hidden beyond the hills where the fog never lifted, a place where each soul kept a lantern on their doorstep, glowing not with oil, but with the essence of what they loved most. And Alden? Well, Alden tended those lanterns. He'd walk the cobblestone paths every night with his cloak and cane, lighting flames of joy, mending those dimmed with sorrow, and whispering old lullabies into their glass. But one evening, yes, one just like this, a new light flickered to life where none had been before. A lantern that didn't belong to anyone, a flicker born from the heart of the farm. And that, little dream, is where our story begins. The morning in Elder Glen was quieter than usual, the mist hanging low and thick over the mossy rooftop. Alden stood at the edge of the square, staring at the strange lantern that now glowed faintly beneath the great willow tree. It hadn't been there yesterday, and no villager rang. Alden approached, his cane tapping gently against the cobbles. The lantern was made of old iron, twisted in elegant spirals, and the flame within was a soft lavender, not the usual golden hue of memory. He knelt and listened. Lanterns often whispered to him when he was close, sharing the echoes of their owners' hearts. This one was silent, troubled. Alden carried it back to his workshop, setting it gently on his workbench beside rows of glimmering lanterns, each one flickering with stories. Where did you come from? He whispered, and just as the question left his lips, the flame danced by and cast a vision upon the wall, a vision of a girl standing alone at the edge of the sea, her face hidden by a red cloth. Alden's hand trembled. Elder Glen was landlocked. There was no sea or painted bars. That night, Alden couldn't sleep. The image of the girl lingered in his thoughts. He rose before dawn, wrapping his wool cloak tight, and lit the lavender-flamed lantern once more. Again, the image appeared, the girl by the sea. Only this time, her hand moved. She raised a tiny vial from beneath her cloak and poured its contents into the waves. The sea shimmered with stardust, and a whisper echoed in the wind. Find me before the last time. Alden knew then that this was no ordinary lantern. It was a call for help. He packed his satchel, extra wicks, flint, a loaf of rye, and his oldest match. Then, for the first time in 50 years, he locked his workshop door from the outside. With the lantern hanging from his staff, he followed the fog out of Elder Glen. Alden traveled for hours along paths long overgrown. The lantern's flame acted as his guide, flickering left or right. At midday, he arrived at the sleepy river, known for its slow current and strange dreamlike reflections. An old ferryman dozed in a creaky chair on the dock. Crossing to nowhere, the ferryman mumbled without opening his eyes. I'm following a lantern, Alden replied. That's what they all say, the ferryman chuckled, standing. Climb in, keeper. As they floated across, the lantern's light shimmered on the water, revealing forgotten faces, loved ones, old friends, and memories Alden hadn't visited in years. You've got a heavy heart, the ferryman said. Be sure it doesn't sink you. Alden said nothing, but he gripped the lantern tighter. Beyond the river, Alden entered a forest where no bird sang, and the wind echoed strangely. The trees were tall and hollow, their trunks like flutes humming long-forgotten songs. The lantern glowed brighter here. It guided him to a fallen log, where something small and glowing sat curled, a creature with wings made of parchment. "Who seeks the sea-tide witch?" it chirped. "I don't know if that's who I seek," Alden replied, "but a girl sent me." The creature fluttered up to eye level. "You seek the scribe of storms? She lives at the edge of time." "Then lead me," Alden said. The creature tucked itself into the lantern, and the flame turned silver. Part 6. The bridge that waits at the edge of the forest. Alden found a stone bridge arching over a misty ravine. As he stepped onto it, time slowed. The world hushed. Each step seemed to echo across ages. He saw visions, his younger self mending lanterns, dancing under stars, holding hands with someone long gone. When he reached the middle, the lantern paused. The girl appeared again, but this time her red cloak was gone. Her eyes led in. "Hurry," she whispered. "The tide is rising." Then she vanished. Alden crossed the rest of the bridge, feeling years settle on his shoulders like snow. Beyond the bridge lay a strange land. Sand dunes stretched like waves, and nestled in a valley was a village buried halfway in golden dust. Alden wandered its silent streets. Lanterns hung from crooked posts, all unlit. He found an inn with a faded sign, "The Anchor's Rest." Inside, a young woman stood behind the counter, polishing a cracked mug. "We've been waiting," she said. "You know me?" She nodded. "All lantern keepers come here before the tide claims the old coast." She handed him a silver key. "Room 7, the one with the ocean view." But there was no ocean, only desert. Alden took the key, his heart heavy with questions. Part 8, the mirror shore. That night, Alden unlocked room 7 and stepped into a place unlike any inn room he'd ever known. The walls rippled like water, the floor shimmered with moonlight, though no window showed the sky. On the far wall was a mirror, not glass, but a pool of liquid light. And in that mirror, he saw her, the girl again, this time closer. "I am the last of the lantern-born," she said, "and you're the only one left who can light the mirror shore." Alden touched the mirror. The lantern flared and he was pulled in, and on the other side, he found the tide was real, but it was made of stars. The mirror shore sparkled beneath Alden's feet, grains of sand glowing like constellations. Waves of liquid light lapped gently at the coast. The girl waited, her red cloak gone, replaced with robes made of wind and moonlight. "You came," she said. Alden looked around. "What is this place?" "This is where all forgotten stories wash ashore, and where one lantern keeper can bring them home." She handed him a final lantern, its flame dark and daunting. "Yours to light," she whispered. Alden raised his own flame. As he touched it to the dormant wick, stars exploded across the tide. His journey was not over. It had just begun. The light from Alden's lantern stretched into the starlit sea, forming a glowing path that wound between gentle waves. The girl walked beside him now, no longer a mistress, but a companion old and new. "Every step you take restores a forgotten tale," she said. "The tide carries them back." Alden looked behind. Shadows of stories followed. Children laughing, lovers reuniting, old songs drifting on the wind. Each memory found its light. They walked for what felt like days or centuries, time spent here. Eventually, they reached a hill beneath the stars. At the top stood a lighthouse unlike any Alden had seen. Its glass was moonstone, and it shimmered with every story he'd ever known. This, the girl said, is where you rest. But my work will continue in every lantern, in every dream. Alden entered the lighthouse. He climbed to the top and placed his lantern on the final hook. The flame burned bright, lavender and gold, and Elderglen glowed anew beneath the fog. And so the last lantern keeper became the first light of memory. Now, story number 2 of the night, my dear. Come settle in now. The night draped itself across the hills like a soft velvet cloak, and the rain is tapping gently on the windows. My kettle's still warm, the old rocking chair creaks just right, and I've got a tale that's just been waiting to be told. Have you ever wondered where the clouds come from? No, not the ones up high in the sky after a storm. No. I mean the softest, fluffiest ones that look like they were stitched together by angels or giggling sky kittens. The kind that float lazy and low, that drift like they've got nowhere urgent to be. Those clouds, well, they come from a little stone cottage perched high on the edge of the wind-rimmed cliffs, where the earth breathes quietly and the sky hums lullabies to those who listen closely. And inside that cottage lived an old fellow named Thistlewood, a tiny man with a beard that reached his belt and glasses as round as teacups. But what made him truly special was his job. Thistlewood was the last cloud maker. Not many folks remember his name, but the clouds, oh, they still do. And tonight, I'll tell you the story of how Thistlewood made the gentlest cloud the sky ever knew, and how it saved the whole world one dreamy night. Now, Thistlewood's cottage wasn't like any other cottage you'd see down in the village or even up in the mountains. No, his home was stitched right into the clouds themselves, tucked so close to the edge of the sky that birds would often pause just to listen to the soft drum it made. Inside, the walls were lined with shelves filled with jars of moonlight, bottles of morning dew, bundles of dandelion fluff, and even a box labeled Unfinished Giggles. You see, clouds, real clouds, aren't just water and wind. They're stitched from dreams, shaped by kindness, and held together with a bit of sky magic passed down from the days before the sun had a name. In the heart of the cottage was the cloud loom, an ancient machine that ticked and tocked like a gentle clock with bronze arms and velvet wheels. It spun air and memory into wisps, and Thistlewood would feed in handfuls of forgotten lullabies, slow sighs from sleepy foxes and the scent of fresh-baked bread. Each morning, he'd open the great window and send a new batch of clouds tumbling out into the sky. Each one meant to bring softness to someone, somewhere. But one morning, yes, one curious blue-tinted morning, something strange happened. Thistlewood was spinning a cloud meant for the deserts of the Lord, a dry land where even the stars cracked and burst. He had just fed the loom a teaspoon of starlight and a pinch of shade from under his rocking chair when the machine spluttered, coughed, and went still, and from its mouth rolled a single puff of cloud, no bigger than a loaf of bread, soft as marshmallow and glowing faintly from within. But it didn't float out the window like the others. No, this little cloud stayed. It hovered gently at eye level, blinked twice, and gave the tiniest, most curious squeak. Well now, Thistlewood whispered, setting down his teacup, you're a peculiar one, aren't you? The cloud blinked again, then spun in a slow, contented circle like a kitten curling up for a nap. Thistlewit reached out with a gloved hand, and the little cloud nuzzled his palm like it had known him forever. From that moment, the old cloud maker knew something unusual had been woven into the threads of sky that morning. And though he didn't know it yet, that gentle puff of cloud, barely big enough to fill a tea kettle, was going to change everything. Thistlewit named the little cloud Nimbus. Not after the dark and stormy sort, no. This one was named for the soft, gentle kind that drifted lazily across blue skies, daydreaming as they go. Nimbus followed Thistlewit everywhere from that morning on. When the cloud maker stirred his porridge, Nimbus floated above it and warmed himself in the steam. When Thistlewit dusted the bookshelf, Nimbus puffed up his cheeks and tried to blow the dust away, often sending half the room to a flurry. And at night, when the sky turned lavender and the wind curled up to sleep, Nimbus would hover at the edge of the bed and hum softly, a low, cloudish tune that sounded like the wind playing with tall grass. Now, this would have been sweet enough, just an old man and his cloud companion living in a sky high far above the world. Something peculiar began to happen. Each day, Nimbus grew, not larger exactly, but brighter. His soft glow turned from a pale white to a warm, honeyed gold. And whenever he hovered near the cloud loom, the machine's wheels turned on their own, the levers twitching, the threads of sky weaving themselves into new patterns, more beautiful than any Thistlewit had ever made. "I don't remember teaching you that," he muttered one morning, scratching his beard while watching Nimbus tug on the loom's lever with a tiny plug of toast. Nimbus blinked slowly, then bobbed once as if to say he didn't need to. That's when Thistlewit realized this wasn't just a cloud brought to life by accident or magic. Nimbus was learning. The way he spun a breeze or echoed the sound of a lullaby back just right, it was clear he was listening to the world. And more than that, he was dreaming. One night, when the wind had quieted and the stars were blinking slowly above the distant cottage, Nimbus hovered beside Thistlewit's chair and stretched himself into a shape, a long, twisting form that resembled something between a boat and a scroll. His edges shimmered faintly, and for a moment, Thistlewit felt something stir deep inside his chest. He saw images, faint and vivid, of lands far beyond the sky, mountain ranges of glimmering crystal, forests that floated, oceans that whispered names in the waves. Nimbus wasn't just showing him shapes, he was showing him places. "You want to go?" Thistlewit whispered. Nimbus paused softly. "You want to explore?" The little cloud drifted forward and nuzzled his cheek, humming a soft, hopeful sound. Thistlewit sat in silence for a long moment. Then, with a warm chuckle that rumbled like old thunder, he reached for his coat. "Well, then," he said, pulling a brass key from his pocket and turning toward a great wooden door that had remained locked for decades. "I suppose it's time we took the sky roads again." And beyond that door lay the sky rail. Now, in most cottages, if you pull back a rug and creak open a trap door, you might find a cellar or a stack of pickles, or perhaps a few dusty jars of jam long past their time. But in Thistlewit's cottage, hovering as it did far above the world in the sky, that hidden trap door opened onto something else entirely, the sky rail. It was a gleaming track made of braided starlight and polished brass, suspended in the sky like a silver ribbon tossed by the moon herself. It spiraled through cottony clouds, weaved between sunbeams, and stretched into the unknown. "I haven't ridden this in years," Thistlewhit muttered as he lit the lantern beside the platform. "Last time, I nearly got tangled in a thunderhead." Nimbus twirled with excitement, pulsing brighter as the cottage's long-forgotten doors creaked open. Hidden behind them was an old rail car, a one-carriage wonder of curved glass and floating gears, shaped like a teardrop and painted with stars. Its name shimmered on the side, the Cloudhopper. The Cloudhopper let out a soft chime as Thistlewhit approached. "Still waiting for me, are you?" he chuckled. He dusted off the seats, checked the wind compass, and placed Nimbus gently in the co-pilot's cradle. "You're navigating," he said with a wink. "No pressure." Nimbus bobbed with pride. With a hiss of mist and a gentle hum, the Cloudhopper eased from the platform and slid onto the sky rail. And just like that, they were off, gliding silently into the starlit clouds. They passed drifting sky whales, their great silver fins slicing through mist. They skirted the edge of a floating orchard where trees bore fruit that shimmered like tiny lanterns. And everywhere they went, the clouds whispered with wonder, as though the sky itself remembered Thistlewhit's name. Nimbus stared wide-eyed, as much as a cloud can stare, at it all, absorbing every gust and glimmer. But as they traveled, the sky rail began to change. The smooth, gentle arcs of the track turned jagged. The stars above dimmed. The air grew cooler. Thistlewhit narrowed his eyes. "We're nearing the edge," he said. "The edge of what?" Nimbus seemed to ask with a worried hum. Thistlewhit didn't answer at first. He simply reached into a pouch and pulled out a map, one so old that the paper had faded to silver. At the very bottom, beyond the marked skies and familiar winds, was a place only whispered of in bedtime stories. The driftlands, uncharted skies, forgotten winds, and some said clouds that had lost their dreams. Nimbus flickered nervously. "We don't have to go," Thistlewhit said softly. "Not if you're afraid." But Nimbus gently nudged his hand and let out a quiet, steady hum. "I'm not afraid," it seemed to say. "Not with you." And so they rode on, deeper into the clouds than either had ever gone, toward mysteries older than stars, and dreams that had never been spoken. The Cloudhopper glided steadily onward, its lanterns glowing softly in the misty dusk. Nimbus hovered close to the front window, its glow dimming and flaring in thoughtful pulses as the world outside grew stranger. The skies darkened not with storm, but with stillness. The driftlands were unlike any part of the sky Thistlewhit had ever charted. The clouds here were not light and playful. They hung heavy and low, thick with forgotten feelings. Some sagged as though burdened with ancient memories. Others barely moved at all, trapped in slow loops of gloom. Thistlewhit guided the Cloudhopper carefully, his old hand sure and steady on the brass lever. "This part of the sky," he murmured, "is where dreams go when no one believes in them anymore." Nimbus let out a soft, sorrowful chime. "Not all clouds are born," Thistlewhit went on. "Some are made from old wishes, once whispered and never answered. Some are fragments of stories that never found an end. Ahead, a strange shape loomed, spiraling tower of clouds and crystal, floating untethered. It shimmered with flashes of forgotten color. Around it, hundreds of small cloudlets drifted aimlessly like lost fireflies with nowhere to land. Thistlewhit brought the Cloudhopper to a gentle halt. The lighthouse of the unfinished sky, he said, pointing to the tower. I haven't seen it in decades. He climbed out, stepping onto a ribbon-like sky bridge that led to the tower's base. Nimbus floated beside him, curious and cautious. Inside, air was cool and silent. The walls were made of memory glass, mirrored panels that reflected not just images, but emotions. As Thistlewit passed each one, scenes lit up. A child watching a lantern float away on the wind. A painter leaving a canvas unfinished. A dreamer closing a book with a sigh. At the very top of the tower, a massive ear sat still, its teeth clogged with dull gray mist. This gear once turned the sky, Thistlewit said. It spun the clouds into motion, gave wind to the dreaming world, but it's been stopped for a long, long while. Nimbus drifted forward, and something remarkable happened. The little cloud gently settled into the center of the gear. Its light pulsed, soft but insistent, and slowly the mist began to clear. The teeth of the gear began to gleam. With a low hum, the tower shivered. The great gear turned just once. It was enough. Outside, a distant gust stirred a sleeping breeze. A cloud that had been still for years curled and lifted slightly. A glimmer of color returned to the sky. Thistlewit smiled, tears catching in his old eyes. You did that, Nimbus? The little cloud glowed shyly. Maybe you're more than just a cloud, Thistlewit said. Maybe you're a spark. The kind the sky forgot it needed. They left the tower together, the cloud hopper waiting patiently. As they climbed aboard, Thistlewit looked back at the lighthouse one last time. From its highest window, a faint beam shone, soft and silvery like moonlight through a child's curtain. The sky was waking up, and so the journey continued, deeper still into the folds of sky. But now, my dreamy listener, you let your own skies drift. Let the stardust settle in your thoughts, and your breath rise and fall like a gentle cloud. Grandpa will be here for part 6, when the stars call again. Sleep well and drift sweetly.